recording. They're pretending like it's not a big deal that they're talking in my head, but then they like obsess and obsess and obsess over everything I do. Um, or that I'm recording and making it clear that I hear them in my head, and they obsess. They literally, this is just, I don't, they're playing with my head. They're clearly obsessed with manipulating records that are produced with the weapon that they're using to talk in my head. Obsessed with murdering me and finding a way to get away with it. They're obsessed with trying to get me to scream and get me kicked out of my condo, slowing me down. Like, I feel like this resistance while I'm moving, I'm chugging along, but it's so slow. They don't want me to make any progress whatsoever, screaming in my head like, ha ha, bitch, just a little resistance. They're using a mind control, mind reading, telepathy war weapon to talk inside of my head like I'm a human cell phone, and they want to pretend like their voice is coming from outside. So I want to live stream to make it clear, just in case I can't take it anymore and I start screaming and I have to check myself into the hospital, that all before I get checked into the hospital, there's nothing but evidence that I wasn't screaming at a neighbor next door, that it was clearly a mental break because I couldn't take the terrorists talking in my head anymore. Okay? They're psychopaths. I want them sentenced to death. They're trying to get me kicked out of here. They're upset that I don't want to go be promiscuous and irresponsible and ignore my responsibilities. And they're screaming and screaming because they are obviously not investigating me. And I'm making it clear that there's no investigation to have here because I'm not a criminal. These are psychopaths that need to be sentenced to death. That I have entitlements to the records that are produced with the weapon that they're using to talk inside my head. And therefore, they need me to, they want me to die so that anyone that is entitled to the records, they want to do a complete sweep of all the documented paper evidence that the U.S. can say, hey, hold on, let's feed this into the machine because it's a non-biased. It does a non-biased assessment of the record, and they feed it all these records, they feed it everything, right? And they say, does this coincide with what Renee was saying? Does this coincide? And the record will spit out and say, Renee did, but there were no findings. There was this, there was that. So they don't want any documented evidence for the government to feed into the system to flag these psychos' records. Okay, on top of the fact they don't want me saying that I hear them in my head, and they want to try and manipulate me. That's why the huge emphasis on the fact that they're real people screaming in my head. They make it so they're like, we're real, but they're not my neighbors. They don't even live in the city of Mission View or the county. I'm almost 100% certain they don't even live in the county of Orange. Okay. And it could be likely that they don't even live in California. I'm assuming that they do, okay? They just sound like Californians. Just seems as though they are. I would think that they are. Maybe that's all part of the manipulation, is to manipulate the record, to make it sound like they're here and somewhere within proximity. But then if they're outside, like I said, my neighbors would have went outside and said, let's call the cops on these people. If it was my neighbors, I am in the middle floor, and there are two, I share a wall with the condos next to me, and I have another set of condos that are next to me that share a wall with another set of condos next to them. So I'm smack dab in the middle of people that share walls, okay? And then my neighbors, aside from me, they don't have neighbors on the other side of them, but they have neighbors upstairs and they have neighbors downstairs. So they should be able to hear what I hear if it were coming from upstairs or downstairs, right? And then they share the wall. So I don't know, supposedly, I don't know what wall. It would be the same if this neighbor next door here that shares another wall with the neighbors next to them, if they were screaming like the terrorists are screaming in my head, that the neighbors next to them would have heard. It's the same thinness, it's the same wall material, it's the same everything. Okay? I live in a condominium. They were built the same. They have neighbors upstairs and downstairs. So upstairs I could hear it here. My neighbors on either side could hear their neighbors upstairs and downstairs. People would have heard these psychopaths, is what I'm saying. So the terrorist talking in my head, there's absolutely no argument to have here that the voices I'm hearing are coming from outside, on top of the fact that I'm adding more layers to make it clear that I hear them in my head by live streaming. I want them sentenced to death. They're Egyptian American Muslim women terrorists, and this is not a game. Okay, they're like, okay, you know what irritates someone who's extremely conservative and responsible? Someone who is completely and utterly obnoxious, annoying, childish. So they sit there and they'll scream and scream and scream, like knowing that I know what's going on, to see if they could irk my nerves, like to see if again they can make me look hysterical, unstable, look irresponsible, look like I do drugs, whatever the image is that they're trying to portray of me, so that they could get me kicked out of here. And they're like, you're going to be fat. You're going to be fat. They want me to take phentermine, but I just discovered that phentermine, there is a way to test to clear that it's not drug amphetamines like street amphetamines. It's a prescribed medication. I don't know if it's what they put in the pill itself, okay, that makes it obvious it's phentermine. But I just figured that out. So I was like, oh, well, if I ever take phentermine, I'm going to ask for them to take the designated test to prove that it's phentermine. I'm done, like it's prescribed by a medical professional, not like I'm doing street drugs. Plus, now I haven't been on it for forever, okay? And it's just this ongoing screaming, hysteria, psycho. They're psycho. They're trying to hide the records that are produced with the weapon. They want them destroyed. They've just murdered. These are all people that were entitled to the record that these terrorists talking in my head murdered. Bernadette Oloska was entitled to the record. David Basili was entitled to the records. Mina Morgan entitled to the records. CK entitled to the records. CJ, although I don't know who CJ is, they said they murdered him, and I did see him on my feed, and he was a friend of friends, and they said they murdered him. Probably has access to these records. People that I absolutely know. Jerry had access to the records. Florence Joyner Jr. had access to the records. Kobe Bryant, access to the records. Who else? Daniel Atkins had access to the records. Had entitlements, not access, had entitlements. Dr. Georgie had entitlements to the records. I have entitlements to those records produced with the telepathy weapon. Everyone that they've murdered, my dad had entitlements to the telepathy weapon. They murdered him. They gave him 3 heart attacks. They gave him 5 heart attacks, 3 herniated discs, so he wouldn't work. He had 27 stents in his heart and a defibrillator, and he was going to work, and he paid off our house. 8 years went by so that these terrorists talking in my head could destroy all his medical records. Although I'm sure that the government took hold of any medical records that they could gain access to, because they are private. So I don't know if they can subpoena records or if they can go rummaging through using the same weapon that these terrorists are using and feed that to the record. Because, I mean, to the system to investigate these terrorists. To get their records flagged. So it could be that they're doing that, and it seems as though that they are, because like I said, the terrorists talking in my head don't want me seeking medical attention because it's on the record, on top of their own record, it's on the record, plus there's documented evidence. And if the government is using the same weapon, since they can't have access to people's private information, to investigate me with, or investigate whoever else with, to rummage through medical records and feed it to the system. That's all layers that these terrorists are basically up against to try to get away with the murders they've committed. So I just want to add as many layers as possible to make it clear. I hear them in my head. The government, it seems as though they can feed it my anything that I post online. If people see me in public, surveillance cameras from Target, just about everything and anything, it seems like, because the terrorist talking in my head, if it wasn't a conflict of interest for them that you know I'm in a conflict of interest to get them behind this weapon, they would blind me and make me deaf and throw me out in the street, and that would be that. Okay, and make me mute. uh they don't want me seeing anything. They don't want me looking at people's license plates, and I'm just looking. Like, I don't record people's private. That's private. All I have to do, and now that I know that the government, they've made it very clear that they're investigating these terrorists, are, getting a load of everybody's, who owns what house around me. And like I said, if I'm living here for a prolonged amount of time, it gives them time to gain support in the court system to say, yes, you can investigate Renee. She's been there for a few years, no drug conviction, no police reports, no driving, drinking, no DUIs, no nothing like that. What is she doing wrong? She's working, she has kids. Why are these terrorists still behind the weapon? Why is she, now is she screaming that she hears voices in her head? The police department sent over the crisis assessment team. So now the government, now that I have some consistency, can start to really hone in on their investigation while I continue to make it clear I hear these terrorists in my head. I'm obviously working, and they play with my head. They cause me strokes, so I go dizzy. I get bouts of confusion. I literally, just things don't make sense. It's like someone just rewired my mind. And I'll be, oh, my baby, hi, my baby, hi, my baby. I missed you too. I did. She's so cute. She's so cute. To make it clear, I want to clean up. It's been already 12 minutes. It's just the same thing over and over. My face is excessively swollen. I went to the wedding yesterday, my cousin's wedding. I realized I'm not the only one whose face they're making swell. So many people. And I saw girls my age and younger, 10 years younger, and their hair is so thin. I mean, to the point that you could see their scalps. Okay? But I mean, they're not, like, they don't, I'm sure they notice it, but they're so sweet and kind. They don't put such an emphasis on it, but you could tell whose lives these terrorists are, and they already made 98% of my hair fall out. These are psycho Egyptian American Muslim women terrorists. Mind you, yesterday everybody was coordinated, and it almost seems like the terrorists were trying to send a message that whoever was wearing green or blue or orange or red, are all on the same records, and those that aren't coordinated with anybody, not on the records. So it's just, and which records they're on, and just, it's like I'm looking at these terrorists or I'm looking at the way things are moving around me. Ow, Mika, why are you biting me, mommy? Why are you biting mommy? Why are you biting mommy? And it's kind of, you're like, okay, maybe this is a sign, maybe this is part of it, maybe this is not. It's hard not to think about what these terrorists are up to. They're dangerous. These are psychopath terrorists, not your one-time serial killers that want to rape people. They are murdering people by the masses, committing genocide in the African American community. It's hard not to think about What the fuck are they doing? Why are they talking in my head? Who are they after? Are my kids involved? Are they not involved? How often do I need to discuss this? Do I need it's so hard not to bring this up. They're talking in my head like psychopaths, right? Right now they're not talking because I'm talking. Okay, and they want to pretend they're listening like they're my neighbors. One of the men just started laughing because the weapon would stop recording me if in fact he doesn't trigger it. Okay, so you didn't hear his laugh. And mind you, like I said, there's nothing to investigate there's nothing to investigate me. So the terrorists talking in my head are afraid I'm gonna die, and they haven't accomplished murdering me without and saying something about me. Like, oh, Renee is so they want to say I was neglected my responsibility. It's just the same shit every day. I want them sentenced to death. Look at my hair from them making all my hair fall. I posted pictures. They want me to look like I'm a drug addict and I don't care for myself. So I posted pictures of what it looked like before they made my hair fall. So you could see, no, this is what's left over. And this is how the terrorists try to ruin the image of people so that you think that they're this or they're that. They physically abuse, torture, murder, injure them. Okay, obviously murder them to and in the process say, oh, they were irresponsible, they didn't want to be submissive, they didn't seek medical attention, they didn't this. So I'm doing everything opposite of what these terrorists tried to manipulate me to avoid medical attention. They succeeded for actually going almost 6 years, almost more like 5. They succeeded. It's like 4 to 5 years that they succeeded, where I didn't see, thank you, Drew, I appreciate you, where I did not seek medical attention. But finally, when I realized, like, this is really, no, I need to actually document this. The police don't believe me. No one believes me. Let me, and mind you, the therapy wouldn't, like, might actually be something therapeutic, literally. And I just was like, I'm good with the idea. Let's give it a try. So this is where I'm at. They're screaming in my head again, and I'm feeling paranoid. I don't like the fact that they might get away with sounding like voices coming from outside. So while I'm cleaning, I'm gonna live stream, make it clear. This is what's going on in my house. We're all innocently just hanging out, cleaning up, trying to get ready for our Monday and the rest of our week. I have a son that's leaving to San Luis Obispo. They're suffocating me. That we live in Orange County. He's moving to San Luis Obispo, which is 4 to 5 hours away. And we got to start packing him up. It's in 2 weeks. Plus I have another wedding, and my cousin and I have another engagement. My cousin's, her fiance, or her boyfriend rather, is getting ready to propose, and no, she doesn't know about it. And they've been together for so long. So it's like, I have events coming up, and these terrorists talking in my head. They don't want me taking pictures. They don't want me doing anything at all. Like, you're a fat bitch. You're an ugly this. You're this. You're this. You're that. You're da ha 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 ha. You look like a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. All day long. Every second of every day. So I don't accomplish anything. That's all they do. And then when I play music, they get louder in my head so that I can play the music louder. And so it's like I get tired. I'm not going to obviously disturb my neighbors and get kicked out, although I own this place, but still nonetheless, I'm not going to, like, God forbid they all come together, the HOA and the board, and they say, we want Renee out of here. And they may be able to do that. And I don't want to, there are attorney fees, my mom, the equity in this house. Like, there's no way I'm going to do that. So I keep it down. This is my saving grace. I want those terrorists sentenced to death. Do you hear me? They're psycho. They are psycho. Hi, go. Hi, baby. Hi. You are my baby. Where have you been? Hi, Mommy's been busy. Mommy's been busy. Hi, Drew. I'm about to just clean up. I'm not doing anything fun. Hope you're okay. Ah, hi. Hi, little one. Hi, little one. This is my baby. Glad to hear it. Well, I hope you enjoy your evening. I'm about to just go do my thing. I'm not going to be on here chit-chatting with anybody, really. It's my paranoia, and I'm live streaming. See ya. See ya. Have a good night. Hi, baby. Oh my God. Oh my God, I love you. I love you. I love you. God. Mika, 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 Mika. Hi, Mika, Mika, Mika. Ah, what? Mama? It doesn't look. It's not a crime to look abused if you've been abused by a bunch of terrorists using a war weapon. It's not a crime to look like I'm dying if some terrorist is murdering me with a war weapon, a telepathy, mind control, mind reading war weapon. It's not a crime to explain that. I hear you, man. Okay. Bye. Have a good night, Drew. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 8:53 p.m.